A school in Germany. Police tape. Stunned officers. A blood-stained table lying in the middle of courtyard. And a massive, gaping hole punched through the first floor wall from the inside. Now, here's the question the police keep asking themselves. What kind of human being could throw a full-size table through a solid concrete wall? The answer? No ordinary human could. And that's exactly the problem. This thriller asks a terrifying question. What if the government had been secretly drugging people with superpowers for decades, just to keep them under control? If you love movies that flip everything you think you know, stay right here because this one is going to blow your mind. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a crime scene that makes no logical sense. Police have gathered outside a German school. There's blood, destruction, and a first-floor wall with a table-sized hole blown clean through it. Then, a composed woman in professional attire arrives. She doesn't look like a cop. She moves through the chaos with purpose, like she's seen things like this before. Inside, in the middle of a ransacked gymnasium, she finds a small girl sitting completely alone on the bleachers. The girl is wearing oversized headphones, clutching a Discman like it's a lifeline, like the music is the only thing keeping her together. The woman crouches down slowly and introduces herself. Her name is Dr. Stern. She says she's a government psychiatrist and that she's there to help, to take the girl somewhere safe. That girl's name is Wendy. And right there, in that moment, her entire life changes, though not in the way she deserves. We then fast forward several years into the future. Wendy is now an adult. And to look at her, you'd think she had the most ordinary life imaginable. She wakes up every morning, takes her medication without question, then heads off to her job as a waitress. She's married to a man named Lars, a security guard, and they have a young son, Carl. On paper, it's a picture-perfect family. In reality, they're barely keeping their heads above water. When an envelope from their mortgage company arrives, Wendy's stomach drops. It's a warning notice. If things don't change fast, they're going to lose their house. So Wendy does what any desperate, hardworking person would do. She goes to her boss and asks for a promotion. The response? Brutal. Her boss looks her up and down and tells her she needs to work harder and show more confidence before she can even think about a raise. And then, to add insult to injury, she hands Wendy extra trash duties. Like a punishment for daring to ask, Wendy swallows the humiliation. She heads outside to take out the trash, and that's when a disheveled homeless man approaches her begging for food. Wendy, despite everything she's going through, sneaks him some. The man smiles warmly. Then he says something that makes no sense whatsoever. "You are one of us." Wendy stares at him for a second. Then she walks away. Weird stranger. Ignore him. Move on. Except, she can't quite shake it. Later that same evening, Wendy is walking home through a dark parking lot when she notices a group of men drinking and getting rowdy. They call out to her. She pulls her headphones on, the same instinct she had as a child, and keeps moving. But then footsteps behind her, heavy and fast. Someone is running toward her. Wendy spins and swings her backpack, hard, before she even registers who it is. And then she sees his face. It's the homeless man, the same one from the diner. He introduces himself calmly. "My name is Merrick." And then he asks her something that stops her cold. "Are you still taking your medication every day?" Wendy freezes. How is this random man on the street? No, she's on medication at all. Before she can answer, Merrick drops a bombshell that she is absolutely not ready for. He tells her those pills aren't medicine. They're a suppressant, a chemical cage designed specifically to block her powers. Naturally, Wendy thinks he's completely unhinged. So Merrick decides to show her instead of telling her. Without a word of warning, he walks to the edge of the bridge they're standing on and jumps. Wendy screams and rushes to the railing, expecting to see a broken body. Instead, she sees Merrick standing calmly on the road below. No blood, no twistidims, not even a wince. And then, before she can even process this, a truck comes barreling down the road and plows straight into him. Wendy goes into full panic mode. She calls emergency services and sprints home trembling. She tells herself it's impossible. She tells herself she didn't just see what she saw. But deep down, a question she can't silence is starting to form. What if he was telling the truth? The next morning, she goes to her scheduled therapy session with Dr. Stern. But she doesn't mention Merrick. Instead, she carefully tests the waters, telling the doctor she had a strange dream about having superpowers. Just a dream, she quickly adds. Dr. Stern's response? Doesn't ask a single follow-up question. Simply increases Wendy's dosage. Take more pills. Stop the dreams. That reaction plants a seed of suspicion in Wendy's mind that's about to become something she can no longer ignore. When Wendy arrives at work the next day, she sees something that should be impossible. Merrick, standing by the dumpsters, alive, perfectly fine. Like getting hit by a truck is just a Tuesday for him. This time, she listens. He tells her that he is what people like them call a freak. A person born with extraordinary abilities that the government has spent decades trying to suppress through drugs and therapy. His ability, his body is physically indestructible. That night, when he flushes every single one of her pills down the toilet, the withdrawal is not gentle. The next day at work, she feels like her body is fighting a war inside itself, aching, shaking, nauseous. But then something extraordinary happens. While preparing food in the kitchen, Wendy reaches for a metal serving tray and bends it with her bare hands like it's made of cardboard. She stares at it, then at her hands. Then she quietly hides the tray and keeps working like absolutely nothing happened. That evening, the same group of men from the parking lot shows up again. And this time, they don't just catcall, they get physical. Their leader grabs her. Big mistake. Wendy fights back, and it's not even close. She hurls grown men through the air like they weigh nothing. She doesn't just win the fight, she dominates it. And when it's over, standing in that parking lot, breathing hard, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Maybe ever. She feels free. The next day, Wendy walks into work with a completely different energy. She's smiling. She's confident. She even gives her boss a little fright when she confronts the deducted wages situation by lifting the woman off the ground by her shirt and calmly suggesting that cutting her salary would be a very, very bad idea. But Wendy isn't the only one Dr. Stern has been keeping under wraps. After Merrick points her toward the therapy building, Wendy breaks in after hours and uncovers patient files. Among them, she recognizes a name that makes her jaw drop. Elmar, her co-worker at the diner. She goes straight to his house and finds him about to take his evening pill. She stops him. She tells him everything. Now here's the thing about Elmar. He's a comic book obsessive. His room is covered in superhero posters. His whole life, he's dreamed about what it would mean to be extraordinary, especially because in reality, his father and stepmother treat him like a massive disappointment. A nobody, a waste. So when Wendy tells him he might have actual superpowers, he doesn't need much convincing. He stops taking the pills. And within a day, he's turning on a lamp using only his mind. No switch, no wires, just pure electrical power flowing from his fingertips. He can control electricity. That night, the two of them talk for hours. They piece it together. They both had strange incidents as children, and both ended up in Dr. Stern's care right after. The suppression has been going on their entire adult lives. Elmar calls their abilities a gift. He wants to be a hero. Wendy has a more immediate priority. She wants to save her house. So when they walk past an ATM, she kicks it clean open and takes what she needs. Then she takes Elmar to a club to celebrate. It's the first night in years that Wendy feels like herself. Like more than herself. When Wendy introduces Elmar to Merrick, the older man reveals something that changes everything. There's an entire secret clinic operating under the guise of a psychiatric facility, and inside it are dozens of people just like them. Freaks, imprisoned, medicated into submission. Elmar is electric with excitement, in every sense. He wants to storm the place and set everyone free. Merrick warns them it's heavily guarded, and the consequences of getting caught are severe. He knows this from painful personal experience. He once used his powers recklessly and lost the two people he loved most, his wife and daughter. But when he doesn't waver, those people deserve their freedom. Merrick eventually relents. Elmar shows up to the mission in a full homemade superhero costume, calling himself Electroman. He even made outfits for Wendy and Merrick. Merrick refuses entirely, when he just throws on a red wig as the most minimal disguise possible. The plan is clever and almost works. Wendy gets inside by charming a security guard, and then knocking him unconscious the moment they're alone. Elmar uses his power to fry the entire security camera grid. They locate the prisoners. Then things fall apart fast. The tied-up guard hits the alarm before they can stop him. Officers flood in. In the chaos, when he deflects a gun, a shot rings out, and the bullet strikes Merrick, who, because he's indestructible, barely flinches. They're surrounded. Then it starts to rain, and Elmar sees an opportunity. He channels electricity through the rain-soaked ground and sends a massive shockwave through every officer at once. They all drop. They escape, but somewhere down the road, when he makes them stop, her voice is tight with horror. What if Elmar killed them? Merrick turns on Elmar. Powers without conscience aren't gifts, they're weapons. He leaves them there with a final warning. Be careful, or you become the very thing you're fighting against. Elmar brushes it off. He believes they're destined for something bigger. Wendy is done. She wants her normal life back. Here's where the story takes a turn that will make your stomach drop. Elmar, impatient and paranoid that Merrick will try to shut everything down, decides to take matters into his own hands. He walks straight into Dr. Stern's office. He pretends he wants to restart therapy. He acts remorseful, cooperative, and then casually drops Merrick's location into the conversation like it means nothing. Hours later, government agents raid Merrick's hiding place and drag him back to the clinic. When Elmar shows up at Wendy's door in full costume and reveals what he's done, her world fractures. He tells her it's the only way, that together they can lead all the freaks to something better. A revolution. Control. Wendy refuses. She will not hurt people. She will not risk her family. Elmar leaves furious. And the moment he's gone, Wendy knows she can't hide this anymore. She tells Lars everything. The powers, the pills, Merrick, the clinic. All of it. Lars doesn't believe her. He thinks she's spiraling, that quitting the medication has broken something in her mind. He reaches for his phone to call Dr. Stern, and that's when it goes wrong. Wendy panics. She tries to stop him and loses control of her strength. She throws Lars across the room. He crashes into the wall. His arm is badly hurt. Carl watches from the doorway, eyes wide. "Mom, what did you just do?" Wendy has no answer. She runs. Meanwhile, Elmar's story is unraveling in a different direction. He goes home, and for one fragile moment, it seems like he and his father might actually connect. His father apologizes for years of criticism. Elmar softens. They hug, and then Elmar electrocutes him. When he walks in right at that moment, she stares at the man on the floor. She stares at Elmar. Elmar doesn't apologize. He tells her this is what it means to be powerful. They should use it. Let others. Take control. When he backs toward the door, and Elmar knocks her unconscious with an electric blast. When she wakes, she's strapped to a bed, and sitting quietly beside her is Dr. Stern. The doctor tells her she was only ever trying to protect her, that Wendy has no idea what she's capable of in the worst possible sense. And that's when the memory surfaces, the one Wendy had locked away her entire life. Back in school, that day at the gymnasium, it wasn't a random attack. Wendy's principal had taken away her headphones as punishment for wearing them in class. Simple, petty cruelty. But for Wendy, those headphones were everything. Her only way of blocking out a world that felt too loud and too overwhelming. The rage that came over her was instantaneous, uncontrollable. She grabbed a table, a full, solid table, and with one furious shove, sent it flying across the room and straight through the wall. The principal went with it. That was the origin of the crime scene at the beginning of the movie. And suddenly, for the first time, Wendy doubts herself completely. She agrees to stay at the clinic. The treatment begins again, harder than before. Days pass. She grows weaker, more docile, and she doesn't fight it. One night, Elmar slips into the clinic room. He doesn't come to fight. He places her old Discman on the bed beside her, the same one she had as a child, and tells her to remember who she is. When he calls for security, Elmar leaves. But then, the entire city goes dark. A total blackout. All power gone. The clinic's security systems fail. Locks disengage. Doors swing open. And every patient inside begins to walk out. When he gets out too, she's running toward her family. But Dr. Stern appears with a guard and orders her to stop. The guard lunges. And then Merrick comes out of nowhere and drops him with a single punch. Dr. Stern picks up the fallen guard's gun. Her hands are shaking. She insists she's protecting Wendy, that everything she's done has been for her. She pulls the trigger. Merrick throws himself in front of Wendy. The bullet hits him. But this time, because of all the medication still in his system, his body is no longer invincible. He collapses. He's dying. Something breaks loose inside Wendy. Something raw and ancient and furious. She hits Dr. Stern, one punch, and the woman crumples. She kneels next to Merrick. His voice is barely a whisper now. Tell the world the truth. And then he's gone. When he sprints home, she bursts through the door and finds Elmar standing in the middle of the living room. Carl is right beside him, surrounded by a slot car track with live electrical current running through it. Elmar doesn't need to say anything. The message is clear. Join me, or your son suffers. When he still refuses. She attacks, but her powers haven't fully returned yet. and Elmar blasts her across the room with electricity. She crashes near the bathroom, where Lars, wrists wrapped in live wire, manages to throw her something. Anti-static gloves. She catches them, pulls them on, stands up, and this time, she doesn't stop. She charges Elmar with everything she has. The full force of her strength collides with him, and he goes flying backwards straight through the glass window and drops into the swimming pool in the backyard. There's a second of silence. Then, the water lights up, because Elmar's entire body is still charged with electricity. The moment he hits the pool, the current spreads through the water instantly. A flash of blinding light, and Elmar is gone, killed by the very power he thought made him a god. The fight is over. The house is quiet. Wendy stands in the wreckage of her living room, looking at the people she nearly lost and the life she's been fighting so hard to protect. She tells Lars and Carl she has to go. There are other people still out there, freaks who are still being suppressed, still being controlled, still living half-lives because the government decided their power was a problem to be managed. It's hard for all three of them, but they let her go. Minutes after she leaves, government agents arrive at the house. They find Elmar's body floating in the pool. No Wendy. She's already gone, moving through the world with purpose, searching for others like her one by one to set them free and give them back what was stolen from them. Carrying the last words Merrick ever spoke to her. Tell the world the truth. A story about a woman who spent her entire life being told she was broken, when really, she was extraordinary. A story about the terrifying line between protection and control. And a chilling reminder that sometimes the people claiming to help you are the very ones holding you back. Now I have to ask, and I genuinely want to hear from you. Who did you think was the real villain here? Was it Dr. Stern, who truly believed she was protecting society? Or was it Elmar, who started out sympathetic but let his hunger for power consume him completely? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and if you have a different take on the ending, I especially want to hear it. And listen, if you watch this whole breakdown and you haven't subscribed yet, that's actually kind of wild. You clearly enjoy this content. The button is right there. It costs you nothing, and every time you don't hit it, somewhere out there, a freak's powers get suppressed for another day. Don't be like Dr. Stern. Let the good things be free. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.